Hi everyone. If you are doing an internal audit of Procurement Department or P2P, then this video covers all the key risks, sub-processes, step by step, and how you can audit them. By the end of this video, you will be confident to independently perform a P2P audit, and you may also be able to impress your seniors and managers with your thorough understanding and knowledge. So let's get started. The P2P department is one of the most critical departments in any organization. It helps to ensure timely supply of raw materials and services and thereby helps in smooth operations in the company. On the screen, you can see the complete P2P lifecycle and the various sub-processes in it, which includes budgeting, sourcing, vendor management, and so on. We will cover each of these in detail, wherein we will see what are the risks and what you can check as an auditor. In any organization, the policies and procedures provide guidance and direction to the employees to carry their day-to-day activities. When it comes to procurement, the risk is that there may not be adequate policies or they may not be authorized. So, as an auditor, you need to check whether the policies and procedures are available, whether they are approved by authorized personnel, whether they are periodically reviewed and updated as required, and whether they are communicated to the employees and whether any training is given to the employees to ensure that they are up to date with the latest policies and procedures. The first step in the procurement lifecycle is procurement budgeting. It simply means identifying what goods and services an organization will need and allocating funds for it accordingly. So different departments, say production department and other departments, identify their requirements for raw materials and services and submit it to the procurement department. The procurement team will then consolidate all these details and prepare a draft budget, which is reviewed and finally approved either by the procurement HOD or by the CFO or by the concerned person as mentioned in the delegation of authority. Now, delegation of authority or DOA is nothing but an approval matrix which is there in any organization which specifies who can approve what transactions or take what decisions and whether there are any thresholds for such approvals. Absence of a well-defined procurement budget can result in unplanned purchases and excess costs. Hence, as an auditor, you can check whether there's a procurement budget that is prepared timely and approved as per DOA, whether a variance analysis is performed by the procurement team, wherein they compare actual purchases with the budgeted purchases and check if any corrective action needs to be taken. You can also independently analyze the actuals and budgeted purchases, and you can check whether significant deviations are duly approved as per DOA. The next phase in the procurement cycle is the sourcing phase, which includes material requirement planning, creation of purchase requisition, requesting for quotes, and vendor selection. Different departments in an organization will identify what goods they need and how much of it do they need and by when do they need. This is nothing but material requirement planning. Once they identify materials needed, they will send a purchase requisition to the procurement department. The procurement department will then request for quotations from available suppliers in the market. Think of it this way. If you want to buy a phone, would you directly buy from your store that is in your neighborhood, or you will check multiple online marketplaces to get the best possible price? You will definitely want to compare and assess what is the best deal you can get. The same holds true even for the procurement department. Based on the quotations received from different vendors, they will choose the most competitive supplier and will document this result as vendor selection. Once the vendor is selected, the vendor may be included in the approved list of vendors, and the details of the vendor are collected for creation of vendor record in the company's ERP in the vendor master. Here are some key risks in the P2P sourcing phase. Firstly, with regards to purchase requisition, There's a risk that the PRs may not be authorized as per DOA, or there could be duplicate PRs, both of which can result in risk of fraud. Similarly, if PRs are raised for materials which are already present in stores, then it can result in excess procurement. A delay in raising purchase requisition is also a risk as it can impact operations. Coming to RFQ, the procurement team may select a vendor without following the RFQ process, which is a potential risk. Similarly, absence of defined screening or selection criteria or lack of documentation for basis of vendor selection is also a key risk in this phase. Coming to master data management, the key risk for any master data, be it vendor or materials, is unauthorized or inappropriate creation or modification of the master data. Now, this means that the master data, which is very sensitive, needs to be accessed and edited only by people who have the authority to do so. Think of it this way. If you have a bank account and you want to modify the phone number linked to your bank account, only you should be able to do it. In the same way, only the authorized personnel in the procurement department should be able to edit the details in the vendor master. As an auditor, you can check who has access to create and approve the details in the vendor master, who can create as well as modify these details, whether the same person can create, modify, and approve, which in this case is a straightaway toxic combination and an audit finding. You also need to check whether the records are created after proper verification of documents received from the vendor. There should not be any dummy records or duplicate records in the vendor master. Fields like GST, phone number, address, PAN are quite critical to identify the authenticity of the vendor records and hence should be made mandatory, and any blank fields need to be analyzed separately. Similarly, bank details are a very sensitive component of the vendor master, and if bank details are frequently modified, then that could be a potential red flag which needs to be identified. You can also check the details in the vendor master and against the employee master to identify if there are any potential related parties. Now we will speak about the risks in the purchase order creation and processing phase. The purchase order is a document created by the procurement department which is issued to the vendor and specifies the materials that are required, the quantity that is required, and the rate at which they've been ordered. It also includes the delivery date. So here are some key risks and what you can check as an auditor. Firstly, there's a risk that the purchase order may not be authorized properly. So you need to check that the POs are created and approved as per the DOA, and again look for proper segregation of duties, which means that the same person should not be able to create, modify, and approve the purchase order. If the purchase orders are raised with a delay, that is, they are raised after a lot of time after the purchase requisition has been created, then it can impact operations. So you can analyze the time period between purchase requisition creation and the purchase order date to assess if there are any significant delays. Now, there's also a risk of split POs. Now, what does that mean? So think of it this way. Every company has thresholds which specify who can approve the transactions beyond those thresholds. So let's say all purchases up to 5 lakh can be approved by any of the procurement managers in the department, but purchases above 5 lakh need to be approved by the procurement head. So there's a possibility that when you need an item worth 11 lakhs, instead of raising a PO which has the aggregate quantity and the value of 11 lakhs, it may be split into smaller POs of smaller sizes and value so that you can bypass the HOD approval. So that is called split PO. So that's a risk because it bypasses the established approval matrix And this is something that you need to analyze when you get the PO data from your client. Next thing you can check for is for POs which are raised without a purchase requisitions, and also POs where the quantity or the items are different from what has been specified in the purchase requisitions. You may also have to look out for purchases which are made without a PO or any emergency purchases, or backdated POs and PRs, which means that goods and services are received, invoices are received, say on April 1st, but the PO has been created on May 1st. So you are trying to circumvent the established process or established cycle of PO and PR creation. So you need to look out for backdated POs. Another thing you can check for is outstanding or open POs, wherein the due date or delivery date has already lapsed and the items have not yet been received. So you need to assess what is the management doing to close such POs. Next, you can review the PO to check if there are any instances where the PO has been issued to a non-approved vendor. You can also look at the PO data and do a rate analysis to identify if there are situations where the same item has been ordered from the same vendor at a different rate. You can also check if it's been ordered from a different vendor at a different rate. The intent is to see if there's an actual rate change or change in the terms and conditions with the vendor, or there has been a mistake in the PO creation, or there's any risk of fraud herein. Similarly, you should also be looking at POs wherein only partial delivery of goods has been received. So you need to check with the management how are they tracking these, and how do they match these with the GRNs, and how do they eventually close these POs. So if you do all these steps, you will have a sufficient coverage for this phase of the P2P cycle. So the next phase is the GRN and invoice processing phase. So we already saw that PO is a document which is raised by the procurement department to order the goods and services. Now, once the goods are received, either at the factory or at the stores, then that said department will raise a goods received note. Now, this document is the proof that the goods have actually been received. And finally comes the invoice, which is issued by the vendor, which specifies the quantity of goods delivered and the amount payable to the vendor. Now, all these three documents are representing different phases of the procurement cycle, right? So there has to be SOD, which is called segregation of duties, which means the same person should not have access to create a PO, GRN, and an invoice. Otherwise, it can result in a risk of fraud. So if you notice any toxic combination like this, where there is a person who has access to do all of this, then it is an audit observation. Okay. Similarly, one more critical aspect is that there needs to be a three-way match. So the system automatically does a three-way match in most cases, wherein it will compare the PO, GRN, and invoice to ensure that the quantity and value is consistent amongst all these three documents. Which means that if I'm ordering, say, 1,000 units of something worth 5 lakh rupees, then that is the amount and quantity that should be present in my PO. The same quantity should be in my GRN, and the same quantity and value should be there in my invoice as well. So that is called a three-way match. And as an auditor, you need to check for this as well. Other risks which are quite common in the GRN phase is that sometimes the GRN may not be raised, or may be raised with a delay, or may be raised with the incorrect quantity. So you need to identify controls to ensure that the GRN is raised correctly, and also check how is it ensured that the goods received are up to the mark and of good quality. So are they routing it to the QC department, which is the quality control department? Are they doing a sample inspection to assess the quality of the goods and services? Goods received, not services, but goods. Similarly, for invoices, you need to check whether the invoices are approved by authorized personnel as per the DOA, and you can check if there are any duplicate invoices. That's a key risk because whenever there are duplicates, there's a risk of fraud or else of excess payments, which is a loss for the company. You can also check whether the terms and conditions of the invoices are appropriate and whether there are any cash discounts that have not been availed by the company despite paying on time, and also check whether there have been any failures to pay the invoices timely. And in such cases, you can look for the creditor aging to see how the company plans to settle the balances of the creditors eventually. We will now speak about the last step, which is payment processing, which is a critical one because any error here can result in excess payments and can result in a huge loss for the company. In huge organizations, the payment process is typically automated, which means that as soon as invoice is approved, a payment file is generated in SAP and it is sent to the bank account linked to SAP. Thereafter, the person who's responsible for approving the payment will go and log in into the bank portal and approve the payment there, post which the payment is released to the vendor. An alternative route is manual payment, which is generally followed for emergency purchases or certain service-based payments, wherein the payment entry has to be created and approved manually in SAP. Now, irrespective of the type of payment and the mode of payment, one has to check whether each and every payment is approved as per the DOA. You should also check as an auditor whether there have been any duplicate payments during the audit period and what are the controls to prevent duplicate payments. Similarly, you need to check what are the controls to ensure that any advances paid to the vendor are appropriately adjusted before making the final payment. Otherwise, it could result in excess payment to the vendors. For foreign currency based payments, we need to check whether there is an appropriate way to calculate the exchange rates to ensure that the exchange rates are correct and accurate. Now, I will quickly also touch upon callback authentication. This is not done during payment processing, but actually during the vendor master creation or amendment of bank details of the vendor. It simply means that when I'm entering details in the vendor master, I will call somebody from the vendor organization and confirm the bank account details or the SSI that I'm entering into the SAP. This will ensure that whatever details I've entered are correct and the correct details are used for making payments to the bank account. And this entire callback is documented and evidenced. And a lot of companies also have policies defining how to conduct callback, how to save evidence. So as an auditor, you can also check this during the vendor master management process. So now I'm going to cover a few bonus processes which some people forget to cover in the P2P cycle, but these are inherent aspects of the overall P2P process. So firstly, it's vendor management. Now, we've already spoken about master data management, but other than that, there's also vendor performance evaluation, which has to be done to ensure that the vendors are adhering to the quality standards agreed upon. And there's a periodic KPI monitoring, which is nothing but monitoring of the performance indicators. This will help the organization to decide whether to continue with the same vendor or to terminate the services of the vendor. Then there's also something called one-time vendor. Like as the name suggests, it's used for one time, which means it is typically done for a small purchase or an ad hoc purchase where you do not have to go through the entire process of vendor empanelment and PO creation and all of that. We will bypass it. We will just have a one-time vendor, and this has to be limited to ad hoc use, and it shouldn't become a norm in the company. And there are also vendor reconciliations. Now, as it's P2P, you will be doing accounting of purchases, accounting of liabilities, of amount payable to vendor. So when it comes to vendor reconciliations, there are periodic GL and sub GL reconciliations done in SAP, and also balance confirmations are taken from vendors on a defined frequency to ensure that whatever we are reporting in the books of accounts are corresponding to what the vendor also sees in their books of accounts, and there are no disputes therein. Here are few more processes that you can look for while auditing P2P. First is contract management. Now, in large organizations, a lot of times there are contracts entered into with certain vendors, and you can check whether the terms and conditions of the contracts are duly vetted and they are signed and agreed by legal and compliance team as needed. You can also check if there are any expired contracts and flag it to the company, because continuing procurement against these expired contracts can result in a risk of potential disputes in future. Also, you can check whether these contracts are properly stored and retained and archived. As with any process, statutory compliances is also critical. And when it comes to P2P, there are a lot of provisions across various regulations that need to be complied with. For example, TDS provisions under Income Tax Act, certain provisions of MSME Act requiring payments to be made within 45 days, similarly provisions under GST, etc. So this can be a separate aspect altogether. So if you would like me to cover that, then please let me know. Also, in some organizations, there are card-based purchases, which means corporate credit cards are granted to employees and they are allowed to make certain small purchases for the company, say like stationery or certain routine items, through the use of these corporate cards up to a certain threshold. So in such cases, you can check what is the policy for such purchases and how is compliance ensured, and how does the organization prevent misuse of these cards for personal purchases, and how these expenses are approved. So yeah, these are some of the additional aspects that you can check in P2P. With that, we are now at the end of the video, and I've tried to cover every aspect in as much detail as possible, and I hope it really helps you. I'm confident that with this information, when you perform an audit of P2P, then you will be able to assess such risks with much more confidence and with greater clarity. And if you like the video, please subscribe, please share it with your friends. And if you want me to make such videos on other processes like O2C, R2R, HR, then please let me know in the comments.